That's fantastic. So, Rainer Colombo, it is great having you here. Thanks for being here. Um, Rainer is, thanks for Giuseppe also. Rainer, I wonder if you can, Rainer's one of your vestry members. I'm wondering if you can just introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself, your relationship to All Saints, and then also what is something that you love?
Hey everyone, I'm Rainer. I've been sitting watching for 20 minutes because I was scared to embarrass myself by interrupting.
Oh, no.
I'm a member of the vestry here at All Saints. I'm the youth vestry member. My main interaction with the church would be through youth group. When I was younger, I used to come much more often, but now that I'm a junior in high school, I come when I can, which is about once a month. So my physical interaction with the church is less than I'd want it to be, but I still feel pretty spiritually connected to it. And one thing that I love is attention. Thank you.
Well, we're going to give you some of that right here. So what grade are you in?
I'm a junior in high school.
You're a junior. So we talked a little bit before with Giuseppe about just sort of your growing up has had this unique element in American history of the pandemic. And so you were in...
I was in 8th grade.
You were in 8th. Can you just talk about how the pandemic impacted you and your friends, and how that impact, if it has continued, how that's continued?
Giuseppe did a great job on touching on how it affected social relationships between students, how it affected their relationship with school. One thing that I've noticed as someone who I wasn't in high school at the time of the pandemic, I was 1 year before. I've been in the cohort of students that have had to rebuild all the programs in our school, everything about our school, kind of all of our momentum had been lost. So it's been a real effort to build everything up. I think a tangible aspect of that, Giuseppe was kind of talking about it, the school dances. At our school, they used to be very popular, and after the pandemic, all momentum, all school culture kind of dropped dead with no one really knowing what to do. So it's been really interesting trying to see how everyone's been trying to like redefine their relationship with school and trying to be like, oh, is this the way they did it before everything stopped? Is this how we're supposed to interact? Is this how we're supposed to have fun? So it's been interesting trying to rebuild that momentum and rebuild everything that we or the people before us had.
Well, I'm old. I grew up before cell phones and the internet and things like that. And so when I was in high school, we had a friend group. You saw each other. Maybe you'd talk on the phone, and then you also, like, if you were going to, see someone socially, if you were going to date, you sort of had that sort of, and it tended to sort of be a dyadic, a one-on-one relationship. And as I watch my kids are 25 and 21. Growing up in a very different world, and I guess this is for sort of both of you, what are relationships like for you? What is the role of social media in your life? Are there parts you like? Are there parts you just like? Just sort of like what's it like growing up socially right now? Or either one of you take that, or both.
I'll jump in first.
Go, Rainer.
I was watching something the other day, and I'm just going to admit it was a TikTok. That's how a lot of us get our information in the youth. And I think there's a shifting culture right now, especially with the rise of social media. We sort of start to emphasize like casualness over being genuine. I'm sure this is with teens way before, but it's been more so embarrassing to try to like talk about who you are genuinely rather than being casual. It's very easy to make fun of someone behind their back now. It's very easy to look at someone's Instagram account and be like, whoa, they're trying way too hard. So most people, I've noticed, try to err on the side of caution and show less and less about themselves. And this can be seen with like the rise, I don't know if everyone here knows like situationship culture, where it's like...
No, what is that?
It's like, if you think of like relationships as like a timeline from like dating, then boyfriend, girlfriend, then married, we added a new step before dating, which is called like situationships, where it's like, oh, do I really like you? And it's like, you kind of pretend you're dating, but you're not sure, and like you're kind of allowed to date other people, but you're also not really. and this can go on for like a really long time. And it's like a big game of chicken, being like, do I admit to this other person that I want to go to the first step of the relationship or not? So it's complicated and weird.
It sounds complicated and weird. Giuseppe, what would you add to that, or how do you see this?
That's an excellent definition of situation. Pretty well done. Yeah, the promise of social media was that it would enable us to be connected to all other people at all times, and then it did, and it's terrible. Credit where credit is due. Facebook and Instagram do not false advertise. It is constant communication, but the consequences of it are profoundly negative. Personally, I'm pretty introverted. I don't want to be bugged at all times. I don't wear an Apple Watch. I don't have a notification set up on Instagram. And I mean, I guess I treat it like email because I'm a high schooler. I can't not have Instagram and still participate fully in the high school social life. But people need time just to be alone. And it doesn't even have to be particularly profound or deep thinking. Sometimes I just want to curl up in bed with a movie or a good movie, with a movie on Netflix or a good book. And the ability to have that peace and that freedom from other people's expectations and the expectations of social obligation to other people is incredibly valuable. And the fact that social media has all but gutted that reasonable notion of privacy, even for a little bit of time in the day, I think is profoundly damaging to people, because it teaches people that they constantly have to be always out there, always on the respirator, always trying to be both making a good impression and nervous about rumors spreading in an instant behind their back over social media, which is something that Rainer was alluding to a second ago. And so the end result of this is that it destroys people's peace of mind, it destroys people's free time, and really it can be quite dehumanizing because of the relative paranoia that classmates have about constantly being reachable.
Yeah. I'm seeing you nod your head vigorously at all this, Rainer. How has this culture impacted you personally?
It's I'm reminded of a scene in the movie Mean Girls where the teacher asks everyone if they think someone's talked about them behind their back, and everyone raised their hands. And then they ask if they've talked about someone badly behind their back, and everyone raised their hands. I'm gonna be honest, I would also raise my hands for both. It's very easy if someone like sends you a screenshot and they go, "Oh, this is so embarrassing." I'm like, haha, yeah. It's not something that I'm proud of, but it's definitely something that people have done. It's something that everyone has done. Personally, I also have Instagram, but I haven't really ever posted anything on there, I guess. I just have my name. I'm trying to think of a specific example of how this has impacted me. I guess I think it's definitely like a sense of social paranoia, as he was talking about. It makes you nothing is safe, nothing is private, nothing is confidential. It's so easy for anything that you say to be screenshot and shared with someone. So like I have a habit of not trying to send anything that I wouldn't want anyone else to see over something. You know, it's hard. Everyone talks about everyone else behind their backs, and everyone can talk to everyone whenever. And it's just, I guess, scary, but it's easy for both of us to try to sensationalize this. You know, it's just something that we live with now. It's just an adapted part of our culture.
Yeah. So, were you going to add something, or?
No, I think
Oh, okay.
nail on the head.
So, as you look at the world, as you look at the world that you're growing up into, where do you find hope, and what gives you anxiety? Question give you anxiety?
I'll go first if that's all
There
right.
you go.
I'm very interested in environmental policy. It's something that I've always had a very strong passion for. So in school, I've spent this last semester writing a very big research project on something, and that's been the Los Angeles River. I've been very interested in it. So I was talking about pollution within the Los Angeles River and how the pandemic impacted pollution. And my original theory would be that, there's this very strong canon in our culture that when the pandemic happened, nature had this fantastic way of recovering and bouncing back. And I was very much looking for that solution in my writing and in my research. And what I found wasn't actually that it completely went away, nor that it completely got worse. It's just that it changed how we polluted the river. So for example, metal pollution coming in from LA's industrial district, that severely decreased, but we also saw a big rise in plastic pollution from all the medical waste. So I find anxiety in the way that we interact with the world around us in all the research that I find. But it's also interesting finding hope. I wrote in the conclusion of my essay, it's very easy for us to change our behavior, as we can see in this 1.5 year period. We so drastically changed the way we polluted this river. So think about how effective it would be instead of this sporadic array of changes if we actually made focused changes. So it was hard seeing that what we're doing right now, what we've done in the past, it wasn't working, but it gave me hope to see that it was very possible to have directed actions to make a direct positive impact in such a short period of time.
Giuseppe.
Okay, what gives me anxiety is that we are not inheriting a world in the best of states. There are probably 3 different ways that I can plausibly see sort of the established life that we currently have coming to an end. The first is nuclear war. Not fun to think about, but very real, especially given the bombast coming out of Russian leadership. The second is climate change and environmental destruction. That's probably the most likely. And then the third is the establishment of either illiberal democracies or downright dictatorships, likely with a religious component across much of the world, and not just Western Europe and the United States either. We're seeing highly religious rhetoric in parts of Africa and even parts of Asia. All of this is exceptionally concerning. What doubly makes me worried is that the way that we would have solved this with a highly educated populace capable of thinking through these issues seems to be dissolving. The educational system has been gutted, and higher education is factionalized and pretty much inaccessible for too many people. All of this is deeply concerning. What makes me optimistic, though, is that I think our generation knows this on a deeply personal level, and, okay, bear with my woo-woo here, but we kind of grew up in an era of relative scarcity. Not necessarily material scarcity. There's endless stuff you can buy on Amazon at the click of a button. That's not the problem. But in terms of emotional connection, in terms of friendship, in terms of genuine interpersonal care, a lot of this has been incredibly scarce because of COVID, because of the social dynamics coming out of COVID, because of social media. I think you would probably agree with this assessment. And the consequence of this is that it has taught us that we can't write off anybody because we need what friends we can get at this point. And so that scarcity has in turn contributed to, I think, a real sense of openness and a willingness to be vulnerable with people of different backgrounds and different groups, not just in our own country, but I have friends in other countries and around the world who I consider close friends, and that willingness to look past more petty barriers is what makes me optimistic for the future. The pandemic was absolutely horrible in many regards, but that might be its longest lasting impact.
Thank you both. Just one last question for each of you, and what is it from your life experience right now, or what's on your heart, that you would like to tell your All Saints community? What would you like us to know that maybe we don't know?
I guess it's important for these things to try to end on a more optimistic note.
You can end any way you want.
I don't know if many of you guys have children or grandchildren, but I think this sentiment that my parents and grandparents have shared with me, because our culture has become something that's so drastically different than something that you guys have grown up with, we're navigating a world that you guys didn't have to. So I guess one thing that I wanted to share with you guys is by trying and by having interests and by trying your best to understand the lives of your children, you're doing enough. As long as you're making an effort to try to understand them and try to understand the world they're going through, as long you don't have to understand every detail. They're allowed to keep some things private, but as long as that effort is being made for connection, I believe that's enough to have a strong bond and to make sure that they're doing all right in the world. So thank you.
Thanks, Rainer. Giuseppe.
That role modeling and leadership matters. That the generation that's coming of age today is looking to our own families, and we're looking to national and international leaders for inspiration about what it means to be a good person and what it means to make good decisions. And sometimes we get excellent leadership, and sometimes we don't. And that choose to be and choose to support leaders who you would want your kids to grow up to be, because we probably will.
Thank you both so much. It's just, thank you. Great having you here. I hope you'll come and hear Mason and Samantha and Giuseppe preach at the 10 o'clock service. Samantha, I think, got tied up in some choir stuff. I know Mason did too, so they couldn't be here. Next Sunday, we will have an amazing forum with Susan Russell for Pride Month. And again, just Rainer, Giuseppe, thank you so much, and thank you for being here.